Is it my imagination or insanity? A strange hum, a flash of light. I'm overcome, nothing but fright. Otherworldly beings taking me in the night. I'm an extraterrestrial hostage tonight. I wanna run, but I can't move. What do I do? What do I do? Where are they taking me? Where are they taking me? I'm an extraterrestrial hostage tonight. I wanna run, but I can't move. I don't feel real. I wake up in my bed. Was it just in my head? Looking at my hand, there's something there. Inside of me, I'm feeling oh so scared. Confusion and nasty fear. It wasn't just a nightmare. So loud, so bright, hypnotizing me figures lost in time. I'm tortured, surrounding me tonight. I'm an extraterrestrial hostage tonight. I wanna run, but I can't move. What do I do? What do I do? Where are they taking me? Where are they taking me? I'm an extraterrestrial hostage tonight. I wanna run, but I can't move. I don't feel real. I wake up in my bed. Was it just in my head? Where are they taking me? I'm swelling in me. Where are they taking me? Anxiety rising. Was it just in my head? Paralyzing panic. Was it just in my head? I'm an extraterrestrial hostage tonight. I wanna run, but I can't move. What do I do? What do I do? Where are they taking me? Where are they taking me? I'm an extraterrestrial hostage tonight. I wanna run, but I can't move. I don't feel real. I wake up in my bed. Was it just in my head?
past, exiled to faraway lands, shape-shifting into what is more fitting. The seas could not take me, war could not break me, to feel so alive, overflowing elation, ready for war, ready for war, ready for war, ready for war. I see the bear in me, eye to eye, we become one, prowling in hunting, devouring you. I am the Bear King.
All right, folks. Welcome to Paranormal Roundtable. Sort of an impromptu, but we were planning on doing a YouTube / Rumble today. So we tried today to see if it'll work. Got a lot going on. I had to have a meeting, and so I was closer to the house than I was to this office / studio. So I just said, you know what, we're going to do it from the house. So here we are. Like I said, we won't be in this house, but like maybe a little while longer, and then we'll be to the new place. And I don't know how long it's going to take to set up my study there. I will have one, but I will take a little bit to get it set up and get it going. So just kind of practicing here and testing how it works to go with Rumble and YouTube live at the same time. That's pretty much what we're doing here. And Anthony was like, well, let's just see what happens. Let's see how it works. So I'm not real sure what I'm looking at here. If these are comments, if there's a difference between the comments. Brazilian Steakhouse tonight. Oh, you're going to have fun there, depending on which one you go to. The one we like to go to when we go is Estancia. It's really nice. It's funny because when I was doing that, you said that could kind of touch it off right there. The Brazilian Steakhouse has the same name as a subdivision that I was doing security at down in South Austin years ago. And so there was a lot of weird stuff in that area, and I got a lot of reports from that area. And I was working at another place. And so work stuff never ends. And I got a lot of the information from the guys that were working out there who had been involved in the Hernandez Ranch stuff. So me and the guys had interviewed these people. And then those interviews led to talking to multiple other people. One was a guy named Brad. So anyways, it just, and the rest is history. We just went on and on and on. And then there was a guy who was into spelunking, like he went into caves and cave dive and things like that. One of those guys, his name was Brad. He got me in touch with another guy named Tori. And that guy ended up being a wealth of information too. And so he had a lot of encounters and things that he only had like 2 encounters himself with these creatures. Both were very brief. Both were like on the Guadalupe River. And then that was it. There wasn't a whole lot else to go by. So yeah, what ended up happening with that guy, he of course, one thing leads to another. He gave me information on another person and another person. So last night I alluded to a person's story because a guy named Shane came on the show and had a picture of a Bigfoot. And a lot of people have been messaging me and asking me about it. And I have not at this point posted that picture to the Paranormal Roundtable group. At some point, I probably will, just because of the demand of people wanting to see it. Because I showed it on the show last night, and it's crazy. His trail cam caught like the side profile of what looks like. I don't know. It looks. I don't know. It's like ape, but human like. It's like a Bigfoot. I mean, like you would think a Bigfoot would look. So we went down the rabbit hole and we started talking about Cameron, Texas. Now, Cameron, Texas has a hog problem. And in fact, last night I ate dinner at my friend Arash's place, and we hammered out the details of a live. We're going to try and do it live, but we may just have to record it, or we may do a live and a record. But it's going to be an investigation that we're going to do out there at his place out in Cistern. So we met him last night for dinner over at his place late. We showed up late and we had a lot going on. So after the show, we went and, hey, BMR, what's going on, brother? I see everybody here. Amy Krill, Jackie, Maddie, Rich Sykes, Dorothy, all the good people. So one of the things that we talked about last night was how he wants to show us this barn out there that he thinks is haunted because some weird stuff has happened. And he says when he's out there, he'll be on the edge of the property doing some work or whatever, because it has taken some work to get it up to snuff, to what. And so he'll hear noises coming from the bush. Now there's hogs out there, but he goes, I know the hogs. This sounds like something bipedal. Now, neither I nor Arash can fully say we've seen a Bigfoot. He caught a glimpse of something like really quick. And now, having seen the Dogman type creature, he thought immediately that, But then I told him, I said, no, there's been Bigfoot sightings in that area, besides the ones that have been seen around his property. Now, he's had a couple of witnesses who claim that they have seen Bigfoot right there in that area, like near his property. Now, one of them was a person that reached out to him right before he opened the place. And then that person got in touch with me, and then we started talking, and one thing led to another. And now you have this whole whatever. And so he asked me last night, he was like, do you believe maybe that there could be? And I said, I don't know. So what I'm going to do is next week, I'm going to go out there, and I may do a quick live while I'm out there. They do have internet now. So they didn't for a while. And maybe we can see, maybe we can find something out. We can take a lay of the land during the day, and then so you'll know what it looks like. And then we can go back out there at night and see what we can find, if anything, But it is a dangerous place because, there is a humongous hog population out there. And there is a very brazen pack of coyotes. It's about 20, 30 strong. Now, you would say, not a coyote, come on. I've kicked one, dude. Okay. It literally, I didn't know it was there. And I was on a job site, and I was telling my business doing number one, and this thing ran in front of me, and I just kicked, and it flew up in the air. And it was a coyote. Now, I didn't realize at the time what it was. It just freaked me out. It was in 2006, and it took off running, and it was alone by itself running around, or there might have been more, but that was the only one that was close to me that I saw, and it was dark. So it's not a very large and typically aggressive animal towards people. But if they are in a huge pack like that, you got 20 or 30 of them, that's a problem. I mean, that is a serious problem. So you do have some animals out there that could be an issue, especially at night. So it may not be something we can do, because I don't know how YouTube would feel about us walking around out there with firearms, because that's what you might need to protect yourself. That's not what maybe that is. So that's the case. I'm not going to be out there without a firearm, and, or several. And so we're trying to hammer out how we would do the investigation and how we're going to get it done. But we're going to go out there next week and take a look, see at his property, and just get a, oh God. Yeah, Seanman, he's doing that. He's going to give everybody a free so that they won't leave. I'm going to say this. When it comes to the BN situation, okay, I'm not the one telling people to unsubscribe to his channel. I am not telling people to not be his friend. Now, one person, and I'll just, I'll say this. He's a small YouTuber. We were good friends. He told me, I'm going to stay neutral and I'm going to be friends with both of you. And I said, that's not going to work. And I just told him point blank, I said, if you're communicating with him on a regular basis, I can't communicate with you because what's coming is going to be pretty severe. And so that was the only person. And he ran back and told everybody, I gave him an ultimatum and told him, no, that's not the case. And I'm very disappointed in him, the way he spun that. I like the guy. I think he's a good kid. But the same goes for anybody. If you're in regular communication with him, I don't want to be in communication with you. If you're sitting here saying, oh, I'm going to be impartial, because that's what BN did, which led to all of this. Okay. In the first place. That's what I'm going to say about that. And then he took the word of some anonymous person claiming that I was this hammer or whatever and used that as it was. If you don't like someone or you've decided you don't like someone or you're going to turn on someone, whatever, any little thing that is said is going to be cause for you to turn on them, just attack them. But if you really care about someone, no matter what someone says, you're going to be friendly with them and okay with them. And that was the case with his buddy, the roofer. No matter what evidence he was shown, no matter what he was told by me or anyone else, hey, look at what this guy's doing. He continued to just be, well, he ignored it. But the minute they bring him one little scrap of tidbit of thing about me, he kicks off World War III. Now, tell me, does that sound like a nice, good friend that's being impartial? No, that sounded like someone who wanted to get into the war. Well, welcome to the party. You did it. You got in, and here it is. Okay? It's not fun. It's not something that we enjoy, and I don't enjoy it. And I don't like watching him spin. I'm not taking any pleasure in him spinning out. It is and then he gets on there last night and says that he had to protect his wife. Nobody was messing with your wife, dude. You attacked mine for 2 days at the beginning. At the beginning of this, she tried to reason with you and tried to convince you that this wasn't true, but it was a fruitless effort because you already made your mind up, and then you spun for whatever. So that's the truth. I mean, and so now they're hatching more plans to make more videos to try to destroy me and whatever, blah, blah, blah. I'm evil. I'm everything evil in the book. So they're going to dig into emails or what, I don't know whatever they can find from the last 10 years so they can try to use it against me, whatever. And who knows? Happy hunting. I said a lot of shit over the last few years, I know one of them was working. I could see that one of them was trying to bait me for the last few years. He's always talking about something. And I caught that the other day. I was like, what the hell is that? He was just constantly like trying to talk about certain subjects. And I think he was trying to set me up way back, just so he could get whatever. So there've been a few people at this for a while. I mean, why? Well, some people ain't got nothing better to do. And some people, by their own admission, in particular that guy, he just wants to see the world burn. Conversations I've had with him, he's made comments like that. So that's kind of his thing, man. He likes to go into groups and undermine it and destroy it and mess with it and whatever. And he's just always been that way. He's a troublesome type guy, and he's on their team. And so I'm sure he's going to try and do whatever. And then there's the other one that's going to do whatever. But enough talk about them. We're not going to go there anymore. I'm just going to that right there, just what I saw. I just had to say something because that's what he's been doing, is offering people memberships. And I have, like I said, if you want to be subscribed to his channel, be subscribed to his channel. I have never once said do not. I have never called on everyone to unsubscribe to him like he has to me. I have not called on people to attack. I made no call to arms like he did. All I did was repost what he's been saying. And everybody sees it, and it's just like, wow. And so now they have to change up their tactics because, this whole, I'm just a good old country boy facade is falling. And it's worse than I thought it was. I knew he was kind of unhinged at times, but not like this. Like this is beyond anything I could have imagined. I mean, and probably his allies too. They probably did not think that it was going to go this way. But just to go out and all out war and attack everybody is just it's incredible. So I just, and to sit there and say that he was defending his wife, considering how he's treated mine over the last week, with the crazy accusations and the damn attacking her for 2 straight days and making her cry. How do you think that made me feel? And you would not relent. You just wanted to believe that I was this guy. You know it was your friend that did that. So either you're in on it or you're just being willfully ignorant. I don't know, and I don't care at this point. But anyway, so we're talking about Cameron, Texas, right? We were getting into this whole thing. And last night, a guy named Shane had said something about that particular town. Now, I want to let the chat fill up just a little bit. Give me 1 second, and I will be right back. I will be less than 2 minutes. I got to check with Anthony on something. He's upstairs because I am getting a weird message. And then I will be right back because I want to make sure the stream runs smoothly. And we're going to talk some Bigfoot and some Dogman and maybe some ghosts. I'll be right back. Okay, folks, my hair. So what was told to me was a pretty interesting story. A friend of mine drives through there all the time. And like I said last night, he drives very fast. And he was hauling ass down one of those county roads in between, by the San Gabriel River, in between it's outside of Cameron, Rockdale sort of area. And he was coming around the corner, or I should say a curve, and he sees something which at first he thought was a person, a very large person in like a almost like it looked like a person in a suit. At first he thought, what is this person wearing, a gorilla costume? And then he realizes that this is not a person at all. It's way too big, way too tall. And as he gets closer, he says it was about 8 foot tall. Now, I asked him, I said, let me ask you a question, man. And we'll call him Jay. And I said, Jay, did you see, like, was it really 8 foot tall, or did you just think it was 8 foot tall? Because, at a distance, sometimes people will see things and they'll be like, oh, it was 8 foot tall. It was 10 foot tall. I saw a 9 foot tall dog, man. The one that I saw when I was 15, I really think was probably 7.5 foot. And that was humongous. So you can only imagine what an 8 foot tall creature would be like, or a 9 foot tall creature. Like, I mean, you're talking like you're getting out into the stratosphere here with these things. So he said, no, he said, this thing had to be probably over 8 foot tall. He goes, I'm a pretty good judge of height. He has a very large barn right outside of Rockdale. And he said, look, when I was living out in Rockdale, I know him from years ago, like I met him years ago. And he said he went to school in a really small town right outside of there. But we went to this summer Christian academy thing that was for like kind of like It was like school, but it wasn't summer school, but it was like to help you get ahead or whatever. So his parents put him in the Christian Science summer school thing, whatever. So we really sucked because not only did I have to go to school all year, and then my parents were like, "Oh, well, to get ahead and stay ahead," which I was already ahead, you should go and do this crap. And so, yeah, I did that too. And so for a month of my summer was ate up by that, like from the middle of June to the middle of July, which sucked. And so, but it did put me like an entire, like, whatever ahead, half a semester, whatever it was, because they cram a bunch of stuff on you. And then it didn't do me any good anyway, because then eventually I just had to keep going to school because my dad was like, well, no, I wanted to play sports and blah, blah, blah. So it didn't matter. Anyways, this guy was in that class with me. And so he was telling me, he goes, one night I was coming around the bend and I know where he was at. And it's a farm to market road. And I don't have the guy said it last night on there. But anyway, he sees this thing like moving up and down. And he's like, what in the hell is that? And he looks and he's like, I slowed way down because it was kind of partway in the road. What he realized it was a Bigfoot looking creature that in the face, it looked hideous. He said it looked like a demon, like a big, tall, hairy demon. And he said that it was like beating a hog. That's what he could tell, onto the concrete. And this animal was still struggling and trying to get, do what it was doing. And so he had picked it up and smacked it once and then picked it up and was smacking it again. Now, here's one of the scary parts right here. I said, how big do you estimate that this? Thank you for that membership, EG. Like I said, we're not asking for any donations at all, because I want to prove to this community, because of the lies being spread about us, that we beg for money, which is not true. We've never done that. Y'all know that isn't true. But the memberships, yes, do get those, because that will give you an opportunity to win the giveaways on Sunday, because we don't do any putting content behind a paywall. So just to explain to you really quickly, if you're new to this, we'd never have put any content behind paywalls, and we're not going to. So the membership is only $5, and it's you can be entered to win on the giveaways on Sunday, which we showed some of the new merch we got that you guys could receive. So anyway, yeah, that's all we got. For members, we just give away stuff. Sorry, no hidden content or anything like that, because there are people who can't afford it. And also, like I said before, if you were on a fixed income, please do never give us a dime. You need every penny you got to take care of yourself. Now, I had somebody tell me the other day something that I thought was not correct. And they said that, well, some of these people are on fixed income. They're just going to go buy beer and cigarettes and okay, so that's that. So anyways, speaking of which, one of our orders is ready from Seven Clay. So the other shirts are done. We have the other type of shirt with the camo. So we'll be able to pick that up today. But anyways, this person said that, well, these people they're going to just spend the money. And I told him, I said, well, people have to do whatever they got to do to make their lives better. Okay. If I give somebody money for something, whatever, and they go and they use it to buy some whatever, that's on them. Okay. And I honestly don't care, because, I did my part. And sometimes people, you can't sit there and hold someone to a certain standard, because they want to have a little bit of life too. I've had people ask me for $100 and I gave it to them, and then they went and helped, they went and bought a TV. And they're like, people are like, well, you gave them that money and they just used it toward their TV fund or whatever. And I'm like, so they want a TV too. You have a TV. I have several. I mean, they wanted a TV. So what? They just told me they needed $100. What do I care? That's not my problem. So when people run to you and they're like, oh, that person didn't spend the money, whatever. I don't care what they spent the money on. The bottom line is I gave from my heart to help those people. And so it doesn't matter. The proof is in the pudding. You do good works, you don't get to heaven by your good works. I know that. But you do what you're supposed to do. You do what's right. And if you do it enough, yeah, they're going to key in on every word you say. They're going to attack you for every little snide thing you've ever done or said. I've said a lot of snide and dumb shit. And who knows? There's no telling. But all you can do is just sit back and try to live your life as best you can, and just sit back and wait for the next attack to come, because that's who we are. Hey, Mike Turner, I haven't seen you in a little while. What's going on, man? And so I don't, like I said, I'm not calling on people to unsubscribe to their channels. Do what you like. If you want to listen to me and then go listen to them, do both. I don't care. Maybe they have something good that day that's going to be whatever. And sometimes they might just say bad things about me. Well, I'm a big boy and I'm used to it. Okay. And so that's pretty much it. We're just going to do what we got to do. I don't have time for their bullshit. Okay. So let's get started here. But anyway, what was happening was this person he witnessed this animal, what he thought was an animal, like a big ape-like creature, killing a hog. Now, here's the thing. There's a lot of hogs in that area. And I have another friend named Trey, who has a business. And so he is a Bigfooter. He goes out and looks for Bigfoot and things like that. And he is Trey Felton, who has done the catering for both of our conferences, has a really cool place out there in Thorndale. So if you're ever in the area and you want real good Texas barbecue, that is the place to go. I encourage everybody to go check it out. He sells out, though. Like most of these pit masters, and he really is a pit master, they'll sell out. So by the time, 3, 4 o'clock, if you go too late, I always call in and say, hey, have my food put aside, because I'll be there late, because I'm always running around till 6 o'clock, whatever. And so, but otherwise you may miss the boat. You may not be able to get your brisket and your sausage and everything else. But that guy, great food. So he goes out there and he looks and he hunts every now and then, and he likes to go out and he knows that the Bigfoot live in that area. Now, I have not seen a whole lot of reports coming in, or heard, I should say, whatever, from that Thorndale to Lexington corridor, which I have a lot of older reports, a lot of stuff from the old days. We even did one stalked by Sasquatch and another one called Besieged by Bigfoot. So you go back and look at those episodes, and one of those is a familial story from my family going way back a couple generations, and it shows like a pattern of these beasts, what they are. Now, some of the ones that they look awful. And that area where Trey's family lives, it's close to Apache Pass, but if you keep going up about 5 or 6 miles north of Apache Pass, in that area, beyond the San Gabriel, it does get real sketchy. And I've been out there at night. And it's crazy. That whole area has a history of weird phenomenon. Now, there are people who have been chased by green orbs. They've seen UFOs out there. There have been people even recently. The most recent story I got was of, get this, a minotaur-looking creature. And I have never heard of one of these here, like in this area. Now, I did hear of one in Greece, and then I got one that was somebody had sent me a picture of one that was supposedly under the Vatican, and then we had one in Durango, Mexico, but none that were actually that you could say. So I got someone that got in touch with me. His name is Kenny, and he said, look, man, he goes, I was out, messing around with my cows, and across the way, I thought that my neighbors had a new bull. And I'm going to hold on to that story. I'm not going to tell you right now. But it turns out that was not a bull. There was something going on. Now, people will ask, people like Jay and Kenny and all these people who have these experiences in this area, or not just in this area, but just in general, why does it seem like there's more and more reports? 2 reasons. Main reason, I think, there's more people. Second reason I believe that this is happening is because I think that this stuff is ramping up. I really do. I mean, I'm starting to get reports all over the area in Central Texas, and all of the researchers around the country, I would say around the world, are starting to get reports that are pouring in from whatever respective areas they live in. I know an Australian researcher who got in touch with me who said, hey, I got a guy, and this guy likes to look for Yowie, but he says, look, I know a guy he's Filipino and Arabic, and he was taken into the inner earth. He was called to go into the into the heart of Australia. Nobody goes there. Like, nobody goes to the middle of Australia because there's no water. It's a very dry continent. And so to go out to that, is a very dangerous prospect, because you're talking about, dying for lack of thirst. I mean, you just really can't penetrate the interior. And this guy, he literally hiked with what he believes water was being fed to him in what seems to be a supernatural way, until he gets to this opening, and then he goes into the inner earth. It's a very crazy story. It's weird. And so I will be talking about his story too. And his name is Philip. That's what he wants to be called. Let's put it that way. So I may have already said his real name. I'm not going to go back. If I did, it's whatever. But he wants to go by Philip, and I said, okay, that's fine. And so it is a weird story. Now, there again, having talked to this guy and then talked to my friend, the researcher, and I said, do you believe him? And he says, yeah, I do. I mean, I got to look at him in the eye, whatever. And I did say that. I said, it's a very incredible story. It sounds almost like, like a grand adventure or something, you know what I mean? But like, people have these. I mean, people do go out and do these things, and all I can do is relay it to you. And if nothing else, it makes for good entertainment. But I can't sit here and say like, oh, I know that Philip's telling the truth. I mean, I cannot tell you that. Philip can be full of shit. I mean, that's the thing. I'm not trying to be ugly or rude or be crass, but, and no offense to him, but I mean, all I can do is relay the story. What I do, though, is look for threads. Now, this guy was not an avid listener of my show, so he would not have gotten it from me. He would not have gotten it from us on the show to say, well, the reason that I'm able to tell this story, and is because I remember different stories that Josh Turner has recounted, or stories that people have come on the show and recounted. And so now I'm going to tell a story that'll make him believe it because of the threads. I don't believe that's what's going on here. But what I do know is that his personal encounter, this guy, Philip, what I think is going on with that is that he is being honest, at least to the best of his ability, because there were some things that went on that happened to him that I think were beyond his control. First of all, when you're going into the inner earth, you've got something's going on. You know what I mean? There's some sort of veil you have to penetrate through some of this, I do believe. And so things may not be exactly what they seem. And another thing we need to look at is the possibility that when you come back, your memory is not completely sound. Just like whenever you're having a dream and it seems so real and you're in that other world, and then you come back to this reality and you're like, what the hell was that? What was that? Was I just eating some, MDMA flake cereal? What the hell, So you're sitting there kind of going like, this is wild, man. But you don't really understand it, and you don't totally remember everything. Well, that's kind of like a safety measure, I believe, that's kind of in place. And from the spiritual world to ours, there is a veil between their world and ours that protects us and them. So you're going to have issues, one way or the other. And memorization, coming from the other side, that's going to be an issue. But one of the things that I remember when I was talking to this guy who saw the hog getting killed, we'll go back to that, is hearing a story from another friend of mine out there who said that he was out feeding his fish. He has one of those feeders that he sprays, out into the water, and it shoots pellets, and then the catfish come up. And here in Texas, we call them tanks, but they're just ponds basically with muddy water in there, and the catfish thrive in there. They love that. And a lot of people are like, well, I don't eat catfish, they're bottom feeder, blah, 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 whatever. I'm not judging their whatever. Okay. And if they're basically in a controlled environmental pond, I mean, it's your deal, unless you got cows that are pooping in it. So he was out there and he was feeding his fish, and there again he sees this big, large, hairy creature come out of the woods. Now, he didn't say it was 8 foot tall. When I asked him, I said, "How big do you think this thing was?" He said, "Well, I would say it was probably about 7 foot." He did not say it was as large as the one that Jake saw smashing a hog on the side of the road, which subsequently, when the hog was hit onto the pavement the second time, obviously it was dead and it was unalived and it was in pieces. And he goes, and I ran over part of it. And I was like, whoa. And I look and I see this creature just look up at me. He goes, and the eyes, he goes, I'll never forget. They were like blazing, like balls of orange fire. And he said, it just looked at me like it wanted to like just kill me. He goes, and I was so afraid. He goes, I've never in my life, this guy's former military. He's like, I've never been so afraid in my life as when I looked into that thing's eyes. And I kept going and I thought, oh my gosh, this thing, it is a large humanoid looking being, black fur with a gray ashen face. Now we get those reports of in that area of those gray ashen faced Bigfoot type creatures. And hold on one second. My pet is doing something. Hang on. I'll be right back. Sorry, my dog had something in its mouth. What the hell is what is that? We're moving, and so there's stuff everywhere. Forgive me, but when you see your dog with something in its mouth, you're like, dude, I can't just take a chance on that. I don't know. I didn't know what that was. It was just a giant piece of cardboard, but it looked like she was. Anyways, no worries. It's just part of being a pet owner. So where was I? So anyways, he saw this this hog being killed on the side of the road with this giant Bigfoot-like creature. He drives by it. Now, he believes this is the guy that saw it on the side of the road. And then we'll get back to the guy with the feeder. There's so many stories. I mean, there's a ton of them. And I got them like a list of them right here, which is just, there's like 50 of them on this. I was writing them out, trying to get notes. And then I realized, I'm like, there's 50 notes here. Literally, I was like 1, 2, 3, 4. So I had numbered them, like 50 something notes, like 56 notes. I'm like, dude, this is ridiculous. I can't tell 56 encounters on this show right now. These are all just in Texas. Okay. The late Linda Godfrey once told me and gave me advice. And she said, and I'll say this, it was also advice that was given to me by another YouTuber. And I don't talk about him, but they both gave me the same advice, even though they didn't really get along. They did have that in common. They did say the same thing. If you're looking to investigate, start in your own backyard, which was very sound advice from both of those individuals. And so that's what I did. That's what me and Anthony and Tony have done. We have a little army man. It's a little, see that? This is my little army man guy. He opens the bottles for me. Good job. Good job, soldier. So what he said was the next night he had weird noises coming from the woods that was howling. howling. But the way that he described it, this is weird, right? And I told Jay, I said, hey, I said, describe to me the howls. He said, it sounds like a werewolf. He goes, it literally sounded like a werewolf outside of my house in the woods. And I was like, okay, wait a minute. I said, but you said you saw a Bigfoot. He goes, I guess, is that what that is? And he goes, I had never seen a Bigfoot before. And so I said, well, you've been living out there. Had you ever had anybody tell you that there was Bigfoot? And he says, well, yeah, I had a neighbor, that sold his property back in 2010 or 12, something like that. And he says, he goes, dude, that guy was crazy. He claims that he shot at one of these things and it threw part of a deer carcass at him. And I just, okay, so I laughed. I said, Jay, you just saw a hog. Well, he didn't just see it, but it had happened. I said, you just said you saw a hog being slammed onto the side of the road by a large bipedal creature at 2:30 in the morning, even though you were driving really fast. And he's like, I didn't say I was driving fast. I was like, I know how you drive. I've been in the vehicle with you. You almost killed us. And he does. He's a country boy, grew up in the country like I did, driving way too fast down them country roads, and you could easily flip that sucker and die. And like, he nearly killed us. He came around the corner, almost lost control. And at that point, I started to be like, dude, when this truck stops, I'm going to call a cab or whatever the hell I need to do after I punch you in the mouth, because this is really, really aggravating. Because I had to plead with them, and there were two of us in the vehicle, and the person in the back seat was like, dude, chill the hell out. You got like a brand new Tundra and you're over here doing this. I think that's the only reason why he stopped, was because he had a brand new truck. Well, this was his old farm truck, which was an F-150, and he drives that even worse. So I told him, I said, I know you were driving crazy. I'm surprised you didn't hit the sucker. And he says, yeah, I got really, really close to it, which is probably why it looked at me with an angry look. And he said that it looked at me like it wanted to get me. And so I told him, I said, so then the next day you hear howling from the woods, and it sounds like a person trying to imitate a wolf. That's the best thing he could do. But he said, though, honestly, that it did sound wolf-like, but also kind of human-like. So think about this for a second, folks. Now, there have been dogman reports all over that area. It's not far from my hometown, maybe 15, 20 miles. You wonder, what if this Squatch was actually the one mimicking the sounds of this wolf? Now, he said that one of the things he heard whenever he would hear, I know you got to understand something. These are country folks with livestock. So before you go judging, think about it, okay? If you were a country person and you had livestock, these are just good old country people. They live out in the country. They farm. They ranch. They go to church. They're just normal, just rural living people, right? Now, if you had livestock like he does, you would go outside with a gun, probably, to make sure that they are not attacking your cattle, because he had some yearlings. Now, yearlings are calves. They're highly prized. And when they get about a year old, that's when they're really, and so calves, they drop, and then, you usually wait, and so people want to buy them at a certain point, So he goes, I had a few little fat yearlings, and I was not going to let these coyotes tear them up. They were almost, ready to go. And he said, dude, I went out there with my gun. I said, that's it right there. I said, exactly that, it right there. And he goes, what's it? And I said, you. He drew you out because you thought that there was like a predator there, Hang on one second. I'm getting a very important call from work. work call. But anyway, so what ends up happening? I stop and I said, "This thing was trying to draw you out." He goes, "It's weird though because I never heard a howl like that. It's usually the coyotes. You can tell it's a coyote." So I thought, man, there's a coy wolf out there. He's like, so when I went out there, he goes, I was sort of drawn, going a little further off the porch and a little further out into the what was beyond my yard. He's like, and my girlfriend, she was like, "What the hell are you doing?" And she's like, "There's something out there." And, she's like, I don't feel comfortable. It was just him and her there at the place. And he's got, about 80 acres out there, whatever. And I told him, I said, "You need to get your ass out of that yard and back in that house." And he goes, "I did." And so he said, that he came to the conclusion that it was someone or something trying to draw him out. And I asked him, I said, "Did you feel at any time like it could have been the creature that you saw banging the hog on the side of the road?" And he says, "No." And then yes. He's like, "When I got back inside, my wife had said, what if it's that creature that you saw?" And he was like, "I didn't really think about that." He goes, "Until she had said that, it just sounded like, an animal. And then it maybe somebody messing around, whatever." Well, I think these things are intelligent enough to do this. Now, you might ask, what purpose would it serve for this being to do that? I don't know. They seem to be, if you read about the Fae, or you read about elves, these duendes or gnomes, it's always the same. They get very offended for like nothing. I mean, it's like very little it makes them look like. Not very little offends them. Very little that you do is not going to offend them. Like, okay, like it seems like it doesn't matter. Any little perceived slight or reproach or insult, it's very easy for them to get mad. And it just seems like the nature of these creatures. They don't really like us. So it's kind of like they're just waiting for their chance to be upset. And I tell people all the time, I'm like, if you find one of these mounds in your property, don't mess with it. Do not engage them in any way, because it just never fails. Every time I hear about somebody having a problem, they're like, I didn't do anything, or they were being nice and giving them supplication and things like that. And I'm like, dude, I tell people, do not entertain this. Do not entertain this behavior at all. Do not give them anything. Just totally ignore them, because if you go into any deals with them or anything, any kind of dealings, it'll be you that suffers in the end, because they always seem to come back and they're angry. Now, I told him, I said, it is very possible that this big humanoid creature that you came across was probably angry because you came around and you ran over that part of that hog, and, then you looked over at him and he saw you and you saw him and he made eye contact. And he says, how on God's green earth, that's not the word, it's my words, but he said, how in the heck could this thing find me? Now let's talk about that for a minute. And I said, that is the $1 million question, isn't it? I said, you were, 8 miles from there? 8, 9 miles, something like that, because we looked at the map, it was, and so where he was at was about the 4 mile point from his house to town. And I said, look, this thing stalked you very easily, because that's nothing for these creatures. I've heard them stalking people halfway across the state, and even into other states, if the ethereal explanation is to be encouraged or believed. And I told him, I said, I think that this thing was highly offended at you, almost hitting it, and maybe having a disregard for it, And he goes, well, and this is true, the damn thing was partway in the road. And I get that. I mean, I get that. I know what you're saying, man. I mean, some of the people here in this neighborhood will walk on the road. I mean, like literally. And if you don't move, because they're not going to move, they won't run on the sidewalk. They'll run on the road. And if you don't, move over, they're going to stay in the road. It's the craziest thing. So I said, maybe this thing believed that it had a right to be there doing what it was doing. And he said, well, I also believe that I had a right to be driving, whatever. And I said, well, yeah, you drive very, very fast. But But I mean, I don't know that that's what offended it, you know, but I do know this. Something made it upset because it came back the next night. And now we know this because he saw it. Okay. The next night, there was no howling, there was no anything. And then the idea was kind of shuddered that it could have been a separate creature that he heard the night before, because I did explain to him there was a creature called the Dog Man. And I said, your neighbor who had said that he saw one of these creatures and it threw part of a deer at him, I was like, do you think he's crazy now? And he goes, no, I don't. He goes, at the time I just said, huh, and kind of went on my bit about my business. And he was on his tractor and I was talking to him and I just said, okay. And I got back in my truck and was like, whatever, dude. So that guy sold his property and left years ago. But if you stop and you look at this situation, like the next night he was going to get in his truck and a rock comes flying out of like from nowhere. And it just like skits across the gravel and hits a bunch of other rocks. And he was like, whoa, what the hell? So he looks into the darkness from the direction where the rock came. He doesn't see anything. And then another rock comes flying and it hit. And he said that it must have been from far, far away because the rocks were kind of like losing momentum and landing, you know. And I said, yeah. And for a Squatch, that thing could probably throw a rock from a mile away. So it must have been really, really far out there. And so he says, dude, I have a gun, I have a rifle, I have a shotgun, I have a pistol. And I don't see anything. I can't see anything. I said, that's because it could see you. You couldn't see it. And so he gets in his truck and he drives out and he's like, turns and he starts going, you know, into the area of the going to the fence line, which leads to another pasture. And he's like, and I'm driving around in circles and I'm not seeing anything, but a rock hits my truck and then another one. And so he goes, and then I just decided to get the hell out of there because I knew that somebody was out there throwing rocks. He goes, and then I thought, no way that it could be this monster that I saw. It has to be a person doing this. Now, he did say, this is what got him, was that his girlfriend at the time was now his ex-girlfriend. Her ex-boyfriend was quite jealous, and he had been causing a lot of problems. He was up to a lot of mischief. He was literally stalking them. And he thinks that he had been on his property and he had sabotaged his four-wheeler. And so I told him, I said, do you think that it was, I'm not going to say the guy's name, but do you think that it was him? And he goes, I don't know. And so that's why I didn't know. I didn't know if it was him making the noise from the night before. I didn't know if it was the Bigfoot type creature that had beaten the hog to death. And I'm thinking, why would I even entertain that this creature that I saw would be doing all of this, right? I told him this. I said, there is some intangibles that we in this field that we don't understand and we don't know. My colleague and dear friend, Ken Gerhardt, he's gone so far as to say that this phenomena is something we can't comprehend. And he's considered an aper in this community. So it's a very bold statement. Coming from an aper to say that it's something that we can't comprehend. Now, that's his stance currently. What was his stance before? He's always just been very matter of fact that he thinks it's a flesh and blood thing. Now, when he helped me with the Dogman book, because he wrote it, everybody knows that. My work, my information, my witnesses, everything, but Ken wrote it. And he also re-interviewed the people of the list of people that I gave him. And we went over each and every encounter, each and every story, and each and every witness. Okay, 100%. Now, one of the things that we talked about, because at that time I was in communication with him and the other guy, like every day, and I was sort of very hands-on. I had to be. It's what it is. It's my work. It's my name. It's got my stuff in there. So, although I can't type, you know what I mean? I can dictate. And so, and I mean like dictate, I say, he said he's a dictator. No, I dictate like what we need to do, whatever, dictation, whatever. So one of the things we talked about was, he said, just toward the middle of the project, Ken said, He's like, I honestly thought that I didn't know what Dogman was. I didn't think it was flesh and blood. He goes, but now I'm thinking this thing's some sort of demon. Like his own words. Like he's like, you know, and I said, I thought you didn't believe in that stuff. And he goes, I don't, but I don't know what to believe with this. He's like, it's really weird. It's a weird phenomenon. And then when we were drinking at the Menger bar at the hotel there, we what's up, Bean? What's up, girl? My dog. Come on. I know you want to be up here with Daddy. You always do. You're a sweet girl. You need a haircut. Yes, you do. You want to say hi? You want to say hi, Beezy? This is a sweet dog right here. Yes, you are. You're such a sweet girl. Give me 1 second, folks. She's bored. You're bored. You've been outside playing. It's too hot out there, and you got grass birds all over you. She is a good dog. Gotta do my show. I gotta do my show. I know. I gotta do my show. Do my show. Let me do my show. Come on, Beansy. No, not gonna let you back up. Oh. But anyways, she's a good dog. No, she's a not a labradoodle, a golden doodle. She's a golden doodle. My friend Josh Sprague, who runs Seven Clay, good friend of mine, had one named River, and she was the sweetest thing. And so I went out and got one. And she is a really incredibly sweet dog. That dog just lives on love. She just wants to be loved, and she just some treats, and will love you to death. And our dogs are wonderful pets. Our cats, our guinea pigs, our everything. We're blessed. But they like to stare at me. Anthony's keeping them busy over there. That's why they'd all be in here right now. But anyways, so the thing with this guy stalking them, he says, you know, I really thought that it was this guy that was doing this. He's like, and I thought, you know, and I told my girlfriend, I said, I think it is. And then she started to say, yeah, you know, I agree. And then this is when things changed. He's like, I was headed down the road to a friend's ranch to do a get together. They were having a fish fry. Fish fry. Speaking of Joe Breezy shows up right when I say it. He's a country person. Fish fry is just something here in Central Texas, something we just do. A lot of people have tanks, they have ponds, and there are catfish in there. And people will throw catfish in there and they'll feed them, and then they'll go and fish them out, and then, you know, which is also a fun thing to do, you know, and then you cook them and eat them. You fry them up, and then you invite the other neighboring farms and some of the city folk, which even in these rural towns, if you're even in town, you might as well be out in the country. I mean, it's just the way it is. So you got this guy going to a fish fry. He goes, and I'm over there. I'm getting ready to go to a fish fry. My wife was out of town. He said she was down in South Texas or North Texas visiting some friends. And he said, I'm over there driving around in circles, getting bombarded by rocks. And I thought, if this is blank, the guy that's been stalking her, he's like, dude, I'm going to kill this dude. He goes, I was so mad. I was so mad, dude. He goes, so I called the county sheriff, and I know them very well. So I met the deputy sheriff out on the county road. I'm not going to tell you where, but he's, you know, because that's near his property. And so they met, and I actually used to know this guy. He's not there anymore. He's retired. But he showed up, and he talked to this guy, and he said, look what they did to my truck. So they go out there, they call in another deputy sheriff, and they go out there and they look. Well, they find nothing. They don't see any footprints. They don't see anything. They don't find anything. They don't find the culprit. And so, you know, he's wasted enough of his time, and he decided to go on to the fish fry. He shows up like an hour late, whatever, 2 hours, whatever. And he says, at that point in time, I told them, look, somebody threw a rock at my vehicle. Look at what happened. This is what's going on. Phone ringing off the hook. And so a couple people that were at the party, they went out there and they took a look at his truck, and they said, holy crap. They're like, this same thing happened to us. You know, they lived in the area. Something had thrown rocks at their house. And then, of course, their vehicles had been hit with different, you know, whatever. And it was funny because he goes, I saw one of the dents on the side of one of their trucks when they were up at the barbecue joint. And he's like, and when I was leaving, he goes, and he said, so I was talking to the guy, and I will call him B. He told B, he said, I saw your big dent in the side of your truck. I thought maybe your ex, because he had some issues with his ex-wife during they were going through a divorce. He said, I thought maybe she flipped out and boom, kicked your truck because you're a butthole. And he goes, no, dude. He goes, I was coming around this county road, or coming around the county road where we all go, our jumping off point, and he described about a quarter mile from the spot where he saw the Bigfoot beating the hog. He said at that point, something just popped up real quick. I didn't get a good look at it. It just looked like a really tall man with wide shoulders, and it threw a rock and hit the side of my truck. And so then they're comparing notes. And this other place where he was at, they have a big swimming pool and everybody's swimming and everything. And then one of the kids in the swimming pool says, hey, Dad, the person that lived there, he said, tell them about the rocks. And he was like, oh, yeah. And so while he's grilling burgers for people who don't like fish, because not everybody wants to eat catfish. Now, me, I love catfish. Pretty much eat anything. But when you have a fish fry, you always got to grill burgers, because there's always going to be people like, I don't like fish. It tastes all fishy. I would eat it if it didn't taste fishy. That's because you don't like fish. So anyways, he's sitting here listening to these accounts. And so he says, my sons were in the pool the other day, and it was toward the beginning of summer. And this was already like, early fall. And he said that the next thing you know, rocks were being lobbed and landing into the pool. Now, the pieces of rock that were being thrown were not normal rocks. They were literally like pieces of cement that had like rocks in them. So it was like, how concrete or cement, and they'll just leave it, and the rocks will kind of stick to it, and it'll all be one solid piece. So when he examined it, this guy's name is Alex. When Alex looked at it, he sat there and he was like, dude, this is from somebody's build. Well, the only build in the area was a friend of theirs that was building a barn dominium. And it looked like it came from the slab. So he drove out there to talk to this guy. And that particular guy was not at home. When he called him, he didn't answer, of course. So while he's out there at his place, and he knows the guy, they were high school or childhood friends, and then all through high school. And he said, he calls, and he says, now I'm up in Oklahoma at the casino. He's like, I'm up here. I've been up there for a couple of days. And he's like, really? Well, yesterday somebody was throwing pieces of cement and that matches your place, whatever. And he's like, well, it couldn't have been me or my family. And he's like, oh, I'm not blaming you. I'm just wondering, how they got it, to throw at my children while they were in the pool. So he tells them, he says, when we first were laying down the slab, something very large with very large feet had walked across the slab and created these like 16-inch footprints. He's like, the workers the next day saw them. They took pictures. Now they were from Mexico, and they never gave them to the owner. And then they just cemented over them. And so he asked the superintendent that was in charge of their project, or the contractor, sorry. I'm used to saying superintendent because that's the construction sites. So he says, I talked to him. I said, can you get these footprints, pictures of these people? He says, I'll try. And he never did. Josh says YouTube is a bitch, not letting me chat. Well, you're chatting right now. I don't know if it's YouTube or Rumble. I don't know. But anyway, so what he said was, he said that there was, he thinks that something odd was going on. There was something stalking his property. Then he found what looked like a half-eaten pig carcass that was strewn around in one of his pastures, because there were vultures all over it. And he went to check it out, and well, not really half eaten. It was just the head was left, and then there was some of the meat on one side, but the innards were all gone, the organ meat. Typically predators do that. And he said that it looked odd because it looked like it had been ripped apart rather than chewed up like by coyotes or anything like that. And the vultures had picked the bones, And he said that it was a weird thing. And then around that spot, like where he had, whatever, he found what looked like a nail, like a claw. And he showed this claw to my friend, and he, like when he came back from Oklahoma, they met at the bar, and he gave it to him. And he says, dude, I don't know what I did with it. He's like, I put it in my pocket, and I drove back out to the farm. He goes, and then I look, and it's not in my pocket. And I'm like, are you serious? And he was like, I'm dead serious. And I'm like, so another weird thing, because he goes, dude, he goes, Wolf, I know I wasn't that drunk. I had 2 beers. And I know this guy, he doesn't get smashed drunk. He's a pretty responsible adult, other than the way he drives, which is like shit, even though he refuses to believe that, whatever. So he puts it in his pocket, and he says, so they know me, all of these people, they know me. I used to live in that area, and they said, hey, maybe you should take it to Josh Turner. And he's into all that weird shit. So everybody in Central Texas kind of knows me. They know me as kind of a good old guy, whatever, but then they also think, hey, he's into some weird stuff. Like these, if you've been abducted by aliens, or you've seen a fairy flying around, or a Bigfoot running around, or a headless horseman, call him. He wants to know. What's up? What's up, girl? Come on. You're bored. Come on. You're bored and lonely. The other dogs probably don't want to play. They're a little bit older than her. And so sometimes they don't want to play, and she gets bored and lonely. But she loves hugs, don't you? You love hugs. She likes hugs, and she likes to play. She doesn't know how to fetch, even though one of our dogs knows how to fetch and play catch and all that. 2 of them actually do. She just runs along behind them trying to attack them while they're doing it. She is not the clever one. She could be, though. She just needs training. But you are very undisciplined. You're an undisciplined dog. Right? When we get that Mastiff, you're going to learn too. You're going to learn. You're going to behave. But I love you. I don't like being mean to her and making her, as long as she ain't tearing nothing up, she's a good kid. You're a good kid. All right, let me get back to the show here. Come on, Beans. So, anyways, what ends up happening with these people, they all kind of compare notes, and they're like, dude, something weird is going on in our community. Well, it's not a community because they're out in the middle of nowhere, but they're farms and ranches. And they're like, something is very odd going on here. So, but it's like this long timeline, like it was like a 12-year timeline that led up to like an intense amount of activity. Now, having gone to the fish fry and heard all these people talking about all these different things that have been happening, and all these different encounters, and all the different rocks being thrown, and all the other crap that's been done. Speaking of which, someone literally said that there was a pile of poo left on the hood of their Ford, which is something that just infuriated the owner. But it was too big to be a human, and what hoofed animal could get up there? And it wasn't a cat. There were no paw prints or anything like that. So something took a gigantic dump on the guy's truck. So that was another thing. And that went around too. And everybody was making a big joke about it and saying it was funny and blah, blah, blah. And I heard that from one of my friends that lived further up the road, in between Taylor and Thrall. And they were like, yeah, there was a guy whose truck down in between Thrall and Thorndale got whatever, poop on it, whatever. That was years ago. That was like in 2012. And everybody was making a big joke about it. I know the guy. And, he's a Hispanic dude, and so he thought that maybe one of the people that he had made mad, but he said that it because there were some people that he had fired like months and months ago, but he said it was like 7-8 months ago. And I said, well, it's another realm of possibility that they could have been angry. People hold on to grudges, and they act like it's going to do something for them to stay mad, right? And it doesn't do any good for you to stay pissed. It's just going to hurt you in the long run. But people do, and he thought maybe they had pooed on the hood of his truck, and I disagreed. The size of what it was, there's no way. The truck was only a couple years old, so that really aggravated him. And it was a nice truck. And here's the thing too: whatever this thing was eating, whatever it did, and this sounds kind of vulgar, whatever, but the poop on the hood of the truck ate the paint, right? Now, if it was a regular animal, you could probably just spray it off, clean it off, and you're not going to have a big spot where the paint is dulled. So that was odd. I thought that was very odd. And I told him, I said, I think that you have a dog named Bentley. My brother's got a dog named Bentley. He doesn't live here. He's with my brother, but he's, yeah. So, and actually he's Anthony's brother is taking care of his dog sitting for him right now. But his dog is Bentley. That's funny. He's a pretty good dog. Anyways, so this situation, started to make sense. I mean, make sense as much as it can. It's not going to make total sense because this guy one day doesn't even believe any of this exists. And then the next day he's witnessing one of them killing a hog, and then it goes on and on. So whenever he started talking to the guy that had lived a few farms over, who had the tank with the catfish in it and was spraying whatever, he told him that he saw one of these creatures. The only encounter he had with them was that it walked by the property with a hog slung over its shoulder. And he said that the hog probably was 180 to 200 pound hog, and it looked small in comparison to this creature. He said this creature was wide, really, really wide, like 3 to 4. Its shoulders, he said, were at least 4 to 5 feet wide. Now, that's a big creature, but he said that it was just so big and so massive, and the legs were like tree trunks, and it was walking upright like a man. And it had this weird, ugly, gray looking face. And this was in daylight. This was not like in the whatever. So he went back to his truck to go and grab his phone to try to at least snap a photo of it. And it was gone over the ridge. And then he thought, should I pursue it? And then he thought better of it and thought, no, I better not. For some reason, these Bigfoot here in Texas, especially in this area, seem to be very aggressive and cantankerous. They don't like people. Okay. And I would strongly suggest anyone, if you're living in this area, do yourself a favor and do not gift them anything. I wouldn't do that with anywhere where you're living. But also, don't try to interact with them and act like, oh, they're your friends, or you can make friends with them, whatever. Bullshit. Okay? That is bullcrap. I don't agree with that at all. That's bullshit. Don't let anybody feed that bullshit to you, because that's what's going to happen is you're going to end up in a world of trouble. So this guy was kind of on the fence of thinking maybe it was the stalker, the boyfriend, whatever. Well, here's what's crazy. This was years ago. Years later, this guy, he gets married, and they're at the Legion Hall in Taylor, and they're having this wedding or whatever. And this guy who was all in love with his ex-girlfriend, and they had all gone off. They've all since then they're with other people now. This is ancient history. He tells her, he says, she's like, she was nice enough to forgive him for his shenanigans. He didn't do anything like hurt her or whatever. He was just in love with her. And he found another woman, and he got married to her or whatever. And he moved to like Schulenburg or something like that. So she went to his wedding because the girl that he ended up getting with was her sister's best friend. So they knew each other, small towns, small farms, whatever. And so they were friends. And so it was these people, they're Czech, they're like, a lot of them are Czech, right? So they all hang out at Moravian halls and stuff like that, and the FPJST hall. So anyways, they get together and they have a talk kind of off to the side. She's like, I'm so happy for you. I'm glad you found her. And he goes, he's like, I'm so happy. I love her. And he had moved past the situation with her. And he said, I want to tell you something weird. He said, what made me stop stalking you? And he admitted it. He said, I was in love. I was madly in love. He goes, and I kept asking God to show me a sign. Get this, show me a sign that it's either meant to be or it's not meant to be. He goes, so I'm driving by your place. And he goes, and I knew that you were, over there with Jay. And so I just said, you know what? I'm going to go one more time and go by there. And if I see you outside, then I'm going to take it. That's a sign that I need to be with you. And if not, he goes, then I'm not going to do it. But he admitted to her that he drove by, he didn't see her, but he just couldn't let well enough alone. He was obsessed. So he pulls his truck up, about a quarter mile up the road, and he parks it by some brush. And he gets out and he starts to walk over there to literally, I guess, just go. And he was going to try and get the nerve to go knock on the door. which is lucky he didn't, because I know my friend and I know his temperament, and he might have gotten shot or worse, who knows. But he was like, I was so in love with her. He goes, I just couldn't help it. And I told her I was so in love with you. And he says, and so I'm walking over there and I hear this grunting noise, this kind of growling noise. And this is where it gets even weirder. He says, I look over and out of the darkness comes this giant baboon-looking creature. He goes, and then I realize it's not a baboon. It's some sort of wolf-headed, wolf-like gorilla type thing. He said, if you took a werewolf and mixed it with a gorilla, that's what it would look like. He goes, and it came running out at me and it stopped, like kind of like bluff charged. He goes, and I immediately ran and got back in my truck and was backing up. And then I saw this thing throwing debris toward my truck and then running kind of on all fours like a primate. But then it stood up and then began to charge like on its hind legs. And he's like, the only thing I could think of is like this werewolf from Goosebumps mixed with like an oversized gorilla. So he backs up, he hits a fence post, which explains why Jay was telling me that something had tore up one of his fences. That solved that mystery. Somebody had hit it from the inside of the pasture, and then he takes off and whatever and nearly hits one of the cows, and this thing was eating something, but it wasn't a cow. Now, later on, following the timeline, Jay said that he had gone out to that area. He saw the tire tracks, and he's like, some son of a bitch hit my fence post, something or someone was running, because he saw the grass kind of flatten down like something on all fours, but he couldn't make out what it was. And then he said he goes and he sees this hog that has been completely devoured. It's just all that's left is the bones, and part of it's up in a tree. Now, we get back to the night when he was driving, when he called the sheriff's department, he was driving back from the fish fry. He goes, and I see this thing, which he said it did look a little bit different than the first one. And I say the first one, it wasn't the same one. He goes, I don't know what this was. He's like, but very quickly I saw something come out of a ditch, but it looked like it had more of a muzzle, like a small muzzle or a snout. He's like, and it threw what looked like a giant tree log, like it was throwing it in front of my truck. He goes, and instead, he goes, I just kept driving and I hit it with my grill guard and it flew off. Thank God for grill guards. Now, country people know this. I have grill guards on my vehicles. I'm about to put one of my other trucks that I had traded in the other vehicle for. So we have grill guards on all of our trucks. Not everybody here, but smart people do. And if you live in rural county roads and you have to drive out into the country, or if you just live in a rural town or around them, here there are deer everywhere. They sleep in our front yard. I'm kid you not. What's up, man? I kid you not. They sleep in our front yard. And so if you're out there in the sticks, and even if you're just around it, getting a grill guard is probably a smart thing, because it will save you a lot of heartache. I hit a full-on deer, a deer full-on off Ronald Reagan Boulevard, right outside of Cedar Park one time. And that thing, it did nothing to my truck. This was way back when I had my Tundra. And all it did was put a small dent near the fog light. That was it. That's all it did. If it would have been if I did not have the grill guard on there, it probably would have obliterated my front end. It was a large deer. My mother hit one time, and it totally destroyed the front end of her vehicle. And so somebody said 100% vibration, right when I was saying 100%, go get you a grill guard, okay? It's money well spent. They really should give you an insurance discount for it, but insurance companies, being the way they are, they're not going to do that. But they really should. The auto insurance companies should give you a discount for it. It will save you a lot of heartache in the long run. But anyway, so he said that this big log, branch, whatever, he hit it with his grill guard and it flew off. He looks over to the right and he sees this thing kind of slink back onto all fours and go into this ditch. And he's like, what the hell was that? So it didn't look exactly like the thing he had seen before, but you're sitting there going like, what in the hell is going on here? Like, what is that? And so he didn't see any more creatures after that, but he did have many, many nights, even sleepless nights, as he said, of something stalking around his property and howling and screaming and screeching from the woods. and he was convinced it was one of these creatures. Now, I did explain to him something that he was not aware of. I said, some of your neighbors seem to be dealing with something that we call a Gugwe. And he's like, what in the hell is a Googie? I said, it's not a Googie. And you're in a bar, right? And you're talking to people who have been drinking, and they all start laughing. Like, you think it's because you're the dumbass, right? Okay. So anyway, I said, this is called a Gugwe. Now, sometimes when I talk to these old friends of mine, I feel like they're trolling me because they always make the joke that, like, you've been living amongst the city folk too long. And and maybe I have. Maybe I've become too refined or too cultured. And they're like, you were always a smart one, but you're living with these city folk, and now you're seeing Googies. And I said, look, man, you saw the Gugwe. And then I made it very clear what I was telling him. I said, I have never seen that, but you did. More than likely, that's what that was. And I also said, what happened with his ex-girlfriend being stalked. And the young man who was brave enough and man enough to come forward and say, yeah, I did this. I'm sorry. I was just in love with you. And now he's getting married to someone else at the wedding reception. And she was kind of like in shock about this whole thing because it was like, Truff, knock it off. Don't do that. He went into the bathroom. Truffles, come on, man. So, you have this, hang on one second. I'll be right back. Don't go anywhere. We're going to keep talking here. Hang on. All right, there we go. Sorry about that, folks. My pig was getting into the restroom. He'll go in there and he'll like grab stuff and just drop it. I don't know what he's doing. Like, it's just nutty. But I think he likes to play with stuff. Him and Beans are like best friends. And then sometimes they'll just get tired of playing and they'll go off and get into mischief. But anyways, so I explained to him and the people at the bar. I told him, I said, it's not a Googie, and a Googie, as he called it, it's a Gugwe. And I said, I didn't make the term up, okay? It actually comes from the Northeast, and I've heard different terms, like it's the Algonquin or the Delaware or the Micmac, whatever. Who knows, okay? But it is something akin to a dogman mixed with a Bigfoot. That's basically what we in the community know. And it just seems like there are reports of these things more and more frequent here in Central Texas. Anyway, I can't say for everywhere around the country because I'm not doing as much research everywhere else. But at least locally, there seems to be more reports of these sort of in-between creatures. And we've even covered, we did a show on the podcast episodes where there's something out there that it looks completely just bizarre, reminiscent of a Gugwe, but it's got something else to it. There's some sort of other factor, going on. And like I said, not far from this area, I'd say about 15 to 20 miles from here, from this area where we're talking about now, is where a guy said he saw what looked like a minotaur. It didn't really do a whole lot, like, you know, but it was an amazing encounter for someone to see that. Since we talked about the episode, I think it was called "The Devil Lives in Durango" or something like that, where we talked about the minotaur type creature, which some people say is reminiscent of Moloch, like this bullheaded whatever. We have gotten about 3 different stories from what I remember seeing. I have not. If you sent me those, please be patient. One of them I know was not from Alaska, and the person was there visiting a friend, and they went out hunting, and they saw this thing. And the other one was from all the way across the world in the Ukraine. And this was a story that was given to us from somebody who once lived in that area. They don't live there now because of the war and everything else that's going on. So they live in Poland. But they said that when they were a kid, they saw this thing that looked like a minotaur. So that person sent me that story. So greetings from the U.S. to where you're at in Poland. And I have not forgotten that you sent me that, and I will be trying to flesh those stories out. I just have a lot going on, man. So people are always messaging me and saying to me, well, I gave you my story. I gave you my story. I gave you my story. Yes. And I totally appreciate that. I am completely in awe of how many people want me to retell their encounters or to help out and give me stories. And but like I said, hang on one second. I appreciate it. We here at PRT appreciate all the stories, all the help, anything and everything you guys do. Everything you do for us is greatly appreciated. And now there are people who have been asking since we've made the declaration that we don't want donations, we don't want help. And I'm going to reiterate that. That's for real. We're trying to just show people that that's not what we're about. If that's what I was about, then I would have never agreed to not put things on the behind a paywall. I'd be like, okay, put it behind a paywall, you know, and just if you want this story or you want to hear the rest of the story or whatever, then you got to pay. Well, to me, that's not a good way to do things. I don't need the donations. Like, I'm not gonna lie, it helps, and it's anybody can say they don't need money. You always need it in some form or another. But I'm willing to forego that just to show you that I'm passionate about this community, and I'm passionate about telling people's encounters and having people come on and tell their encounters. And so I don't want anybody being able to say that Josh Turner comes onto his show and asks or begs for money and that I'm living off of people's donations. They're always trying to accuse me of asking for donations and then saying that I don't use the money for what I say it's going to be used for, which is like, really and truly, who gives a shit? You know, I don't think that it's, I see Barry Nostachin says, if I were a rich man, I would give you $500. If you have $500, do something for yourself. Go out and take your wife out to a wonderful dinner. Take your wife out to a wonderful whatever. Give something to your family. How about that? You know, so anyways, somebody on the chat says something about a story. Hey, Prayer T, I forgot to send email after winning last week. Is it too late? No, it's not. Send it in, because today we were going to try and get the mail-outs done. But right now the problem is Anthony and Tony are working during the day because we had 2 people quit on us. Now, it was really aggravating, and it kind of peeved me that they quit, but I can't fault them because they're getting offered a job like $8-9 more per hour. And it's a much better deal. And so I didn't hold them to like, hey, you need to give me 2 weeks notice, whatever. No, you know, so congratulations, you know, to Crystal. She was a good worker, worked for us for well over a year and a half, and did a good job. And she's a good person, and I wish her the best. We'll stay friends. And the good thing is her brother is going to come work for us. So that's good. But she found a much better, more higher paying job. I couldn't come match anywhere close to what they were going to pay her with the hours that she was going to get. And the other person had to quit for medical reasons. So it's understandable, but it puts us kind of in a bind. And then you have to get grief, man. And then you have to find people. So in the meantime, we got to do the work. And so tonight I run patrol and these guys got to work during the day, and that's fine. It is what it is. Joe Breezy said, Shade just called me a Gugwe. So I have a lot of stories that kind of involve this sort of in-between creature. And I've done work on it before, but I've gotten so many stories when I started looking into it. And I'm wondering how many stories may have gotten tossed into the Bigfoot pile or into the werewolf dogman pile, which are really this sort of in-between creature. And so eventually I just said, you know what? I have to use a Gugwe file, whatever. Going into that, just and like I said, no telling how many are just scattered about in the other files. But we're going to look into the Gugwe file, and I'm going to do some work on it tonight. And tomorrow night, join us tomorrow night on Friday night. Hopefully Monica and Joe and, of course, Abe will be there. And I want to talk about phone's ringing off the hook, man. So I want to talk tomorrow night about this particular creature. I want to do some encounters and go over them and get their take on it and see what they think about this being. I know Joe's in the chat. I don't know if Joe, you said you had COVID. I don't know if you're going to be able to make it. And Barry asks the question. He says, I wonder if Bigfoot can take on human shape. No, there are stories of these things doing something just like that. And I've also heard of Dogman kind of shifting back into a human. Which is, I don't know, man. There's a lot of weird stuff out there. Anything's possible. Yeah, we know, Joe. Definitely we won't hire him. Matt had an interesting comment. He says, I once told a security manager of a hospital of one of the many buildings, no ghosts on the security reports from here on out. That's kind of what they did at the place where I called the Haunted Tower, or Anthony coined it. They literally told us, if you see something weird, anomalous, whatever, don't put it in the report, because the property managers were well aware of the ghosts there and the weird stuff going on. But they just said, don't be putting stuff like that in the reports, whatever. Dick Richards, that'd be an interesting report to get, too. I mean, we've heard of all kinds of stuff. Well, just reading some of the comments here. So when you stop and you look at these reports that you get all in this same area, and for his ex-girlfriend, after all those years, to be told by him something that he had never told anyone. And he said, I was literally love-stricken and I was stalking you. And I'm sorry, He's like, this thing, he goes, I took that as my sign from God to not mess with you. She's like, yeah, I was wondering, because it just like abruptly stopped. He quit stalking her. This particular situation would have been prior to all of this other shenanigans that this Bigfoot thing did to my friend Jay. And like I said, Jay and me are not like best friends. I've known him for a long time, and mostly we were friends like back when we were in high school. He went to a different high school than me, but we all knew the people from neighboring towns and stuff. And I actually got into a really bad fight in the parking lot with one of his friends. And I'm not going to talk about that because people are like, oh, you think you're tough. But, I had to beat the shit out of that dude because he pulled some crap at a bar. I didn't hang out in bars as a teenager really, but we would go in there to shoot pool. Now, I don't play billiards, but my friends do. And because my friend got into it with one of his friends, he threw a pool ball that went out the door and hit my headlight of my car. And then he ran out the other side before anything could happen. And so he ended up like talking to the guy and saying, oh, the guy's willing to fight you, So we went and we threw down like people did back in the old days, and it was solved. It was resolved. Didn't knock him out, but I ended up like knocking him on his ass, and that was enough. But the bottom line is this. I've known the guy for a long time, and he claims that this is what happened. His girlfriend claims this is what happened. I don't know. I can't tell you. I just know I got a ton of stories from this whole area right here. A ton of stories. People seeing all kinds of anomalous things. And if you were to go and take a map and look at Central Texas on a map, and you looked at all these different spots, and you like just put like red dots for Bigfoot and blue dots for Dogman, like we did in the Devil's Backbone area, you would see like because I've already tried to do it a little bit, just like putting like little dots on it, and there are clusters of them, but there's a ton of them, dude. Like the whole map is just going to be blue and red. I mean, full of these things. And people seeing them. Now, some of them are seen by the same people, but some of them are seen by just the basic person that doesn't have anything to do with any of this, and they're just driving through, and they see this. And one of these guys that told the story, he was picking up like the grain silos. They release the stuff into the back of the trucks, whatever, and then he was driving down one of these county roads and saw what looked like one of these things dragging this is what I was told by Jay's friend, or told him, and then he's telling me. And this was back in like the 70s. I believe it was like in the early 70s, and it was the guy's dad. And he saw this thing pulling what looked like a snapping turtle right out of like he was bent down on a low water crossing, and it was just humanoid looking, hairy, furry creature. Couldn't tell exactly what it was, whether it was Bigfoot, Dogman, whatever. Didn't really get a look at its face, and just saw it pulling like what looked like a turtle up out of the creek. And he was just like, he just stepped on it, he gunned it, and was like, "What in the hell?" So when he got back to the place where they drop the grain off and they go back, he said that they told him that was a common sight out there in that area, and that there were multiple of these things. These things were out there. Good grief, man. The phone just ringing up the hook. And so he said that there were multiple of these things. There were these sightings of these creatures, and people had seen Bigfoot type creatures in that area. Like, of course, this was in the 70s, but they would see them all the time on those county roads, and in particular that one coming out of Thorndale. So who knows what's really going on? Like, I mean, like, think about it like this. If you stop and you look at how many of these creatures are seen, okay, on a regular basis, and people report them, stop and think about how many of these creatures are seen and not reported. How many people like actually see these creatures and they don't report them? Like, I mean, like every day we're getting a report from something that happened 20 years ago. And I know there's a bunch of them out there, man, a bunch of these sightings that just have not been reported, and we don't know. You know what I mean? Like there could be hundreds and hundreds more, and people could have been seeing them all along. But back in the 70s and 80s, you would still run the risk of getting locked up and put in the cuckoo house if you said things like that. My grandfather used to discourage me from repeating the kind of things that he would say that they would see, because in his opinion, they would lock you up. Well, he did have a great uncle that got locked in the nut house for talking about UFOs and things like that, and saying that he was seeing all this stuff, which looking back on it on that property, he probably was. But they took him and put him in a straitjacket. That was my grandfather's uncle. And then they let him out, and then, he would start talking about it again. And it was literally just talking about what we're talking about. So it was a different time. So Joe Breezy says Wolf was talking to Monica earlier, planning a trip to San Antonio Riverwalk style. You and Nelly should come with. Well, when are you going to do that? I don't know. We love San Antonio. We go there pretty regularly. We could always like try to plan it at a time where we could hang out with Ken and Ann. It's always fun. Yeah, this is right. Froetian says this. Yes, Wolf. 20 years ago, you would have been put in an alphabet jail. That's right. So I mean, you have people who have had these encounters, and who knows how long they hang on to them, especially the old timers, man. I bet because people also, that's another thing. People say, well, there's a lot more people seeing them now because there's a lot more people, but also I think the activity is ramping up. There's more people, and there's more people willing to report it, because back in the day, they were not willing to report this stuff, because if you did, you ran the risk of being called cuckoo bananas. And even now to this day, I've been called cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs by all kinds of people, even my own peers, because of even entertaining some of the people's encounters that I retell. And I'm like, or letting them come on the show and tell their encounters, and them saying, oh, that person's lying. That person's lying. It's not for me to judge, I think that if we did a lot less judging and a lot more like working, we could probably figure a lot of stuff out. But it just seems like everybody wants to fight and tear everybody down. And after they pick a fight or start something, then they want to say, you did it. And they want to say that you did it because other people have accused you of that before. Well, the bottom line comes down to one word, and that's jealousy. The truth be told, a lot of these people are doing what they're doing because they're jealous. They're jealous of this, or they're jealous of that. They're jealous of what you have. A lot of people bitch and complain about the gold that I wear and don't think I should have it. And I guess it would be better if it was melted down and given to whatever party fund they think it should belong to. And they're jealous. They're spiteful and they're jealous and whatever, and they're wrong. They're wrong. It doesn't matter. Okay. At the end of the day, you shouldn't be worried about what everybody else is doing. I could sit back and be like jealous because Tony Merkel is doing a great job on his show and he's hitting home runs, or Josh Nonocchio is doing a great job and he's hitting home runs, or Chris Garitano or whoever. They're making documentaries and they're doing what they're doing. There's a lot of people in this field doing a lot of great things, man. And some of these people are people who I've never really gotten along with or liked, whatever, because I know that they've said things about me and even said it on their show. And I've never even met these people, not the ones I just mentioned, but other people. I see them, but I still say, that they do good work. And I'm like, whatever. They're totally, it's okay for them to not like me. Okay. And it's even their right, if they want to just say, I don't like Josh Turner. I don't like whatever. That's okay too. What it is not okay is to tell people, hey, unsubscribe to that guy because I don't like him and I have a problem with him. So therefore, you're not going to hear me telling you to unsubscribe to other people's channels. Now, what I will tell you is this, and it's very simple. If you are a close friend of theirs and you are in contact with them every day, don't expect to just pick up the phone and call me up and we shoot the shit, because, whatever I say in one way or the other is going to get misconstrued back to them. So it's just better for me and my people if we don't communicate. But that doesn't mean we have to be enemies. There are some people who are very close with these people, and I'm not against them, whatever. It is disheartening when somebody's supposedly your friend and they let other people just run you down for months and months and months, while at the same time claiming that they're the victim and that they've been being run down. No, they went and they ran us down and they started fights with us because they wanted whatever it was they wanted, which I'm not going to get into what that was. But then your own friend that you're sitting here telling them, like, he's like, where's the proof, the links, whatever. And we gave it all to him. He did nothing with it. Now, I know that he couldn't just stop it, but he could have gone a long way by saying publicly, hey, this is not correct what y'all are doing to this man and his family, leave him alone. But he would not do that. And now I know why, because he was a part of it. And so there you go. I mean, that's it. I mean, that's in a nutshell. And the reason I bring this up is to not disparage them or have any sort of leg up on them. That's bullcrap. The only thing I want is people in this community, if you would just look at the insane things that these people are doing and take a lesson from it. Don't do this. Don't do this to these people. Don't mess with people. Leave people the hell alone. They're just working. They're doing what they're doing. Why bother them? And then they tell me that I need to stay in my lane. Well, what is my lane? I'm sorry if I veer over into your lane and I do my job better than you do. I work hard. Damn, I work hard. I work freaking real hard. I work harder than anybody I know. And there's a lot of people that work really hard, but I try to outwork everybody because I believe that that is what is needed. It is what is necessary. And if you want to be able to do something for the community, and they keep talking about the community and this and that, work hard, outwork people, right? Somebody had posted something on Jesse and Joe Doyle's deal there, and they had said, oh, it's basically a stripper in the woods with her grandfather. Now, when I read that, I was extremely offended by that statement. And it wouldn't surprise me if I knew who did it. But, I have my suspicions of these people who have been doing all this crap, this nefarious shit. And it's the same people. They're all in a cabal, and they're jealous and angry and bitter and nasty and mean. Just like the ones that said that about Maddie the other day on there. And the ones that are attacking all of us, they made that little snide comment, whatever, so they could try to make my wife upset or whatever. My wife's made of sterner stuff. She's not going to fall for your bullshit, okay? Oh, you got us. She's going to be jealous and angry because Maddie was in the studio or because Monica's on the show. She's that insecure, she's going to run around and try to unalive herself. Bullshit, okay? Bullshit. Nice try, guy, okay? My wife just laughs along with everybody else. The things that have been done to us and said about us have been beyond despicable. But we're still here. We're still doing what we do. And we're still trying to bring you the best. I'm not going to sit up here and say, we bring you the best. I'm not like my competitors who make up lies like that. This may not be the best entertainment in the world. It may not be the best production value. We are working on that. And we're going to try and make the production value a lot better. But I do try to do my due diligence and bring you top quality information, encounters, and literally bring you the stories that I've gotten from people. And I try to retell them in a way that's coherent and easy to digest. And sometimes it doesn't work out as well as I'd like. But I do get the information out there, and I do care about the community. And have I talked shit? Yes, I have. Have I said things I regret? Yes, I have. We all have. There's nobody who is without sin. These people act like that they are so pious and holy, and that I'm the most evilest man on earth, and that I'm literally Hitler and Stalin, and Mao Zedong mixed together. Okay. No, I'm not. And I'm not in any shape or form the most wonderful person on earth. I've committed sin like everybody else, but I admit to my shit. These people act like their shit don't stink. And it's crazy. It's unbelievable. And so, yeah, I'm never going to come up here, though, and tell you, unsubscribe to them. Don't listen to them. I don't give a shit. They might have a show every once in a while that's listenable. Who knows? I don't know. I don't watch their shows anymore, and I haven't for a long time. Tried to be supportive, whatever, but they're not supportive of you. These people that said these things about Jesse and Joe, that's horrible. And it's they're pieces of crap for that. And I'd hazard to guess it's probably along the lines of the same people that attacked me and what's his name used it to latch onto and pretend like his righteous indignation, which I think is a pretend act. It's not real. He knows that he's in on it. He knows that they're all together. But that's fine, But these people eventually will burn themselves out. And one of the things that Jesse said that made me fuck yeah, I was really glad to hear her say that. Excuse my language, but she said, I'm going to outwork your ass. And yes, see that? I can do it. Same goes for me, Jesse and Joe. We're going to outwork their ass. And you're going to all fade into the bin of obscurity. And that's what you're afraid of. Because your shows, like Anthony said, are subpar. You can take somebody's story and F it up. I've seen it happen. Or you'll bring someone on and they can't tell the story correct, and you do nothing to help because you don't add anything to it. You just sit there like a bump on a log. We need to raise the ships, as Art Bell said. And instead, we're being brought down. The levels are being brought down. Just like in the education system, instead of bringing the children's mindset up, and bringing their vibration up, we just go to the lowest common denominator. Oh, okay, you know what? This is the weak. We'll all come down to the level of our weakest link. That's a recipe for disaster in every facet of life. That's a recipe for disaster in when you're doing schooling and education. That's a disaster in science and in politics. That's a disaster for economics. That is a disaster for anybody's domestic home life. How the hell are you going to take the weakest, lowest minded, lowest vibrational people and pander to that? Now, what kind of society are we going to have when that happens? Well, I'll tell you. That's the kind of society that the Rothschilds and the, whatever, these 6 families, that's what they want. The stupidest and most ignorant, just bringing you down and then having them spit out the most angry, vitriolic bullshit on their peers for not being dumb like them. The cult of ignorance. And really, it is the cult of death. And you can't have the cult of death without the cult of ignorance. When the Aztecs were sacrificing all of these people under Cuauhtemoc and these other emperors, what do you think was first? They were so smart that somebody said, hey, you know what? Let's just start killing people and cutting their hearts out. We'll prove ourselves to our God. Now, an intelligent person is going to be like, well, that's a little extreme. Can't we just get like some tattoos and some jackets or something? Why do we got to go kill everybody and cut their hearts out? No. There's no way to do that. It's going to work, man. It's going to be, we're going to open their heart, their chest, take out their still beating heart and give it to Huitzilopochtli. And they're like, this don't make any freaking sense. What? Like, can we vote on this? No. I'm the priest. Yeah, I was talking to God, and he said, you go ahead, just kill everybody. Yeah. And they're like, so all of our enemies that are going to be absorbed into the empire, we're just going to kill all of their able-bodied men. Yeah, pretty much. And they're like, okay, wait, but if we do that, who's going to build our temples and our streets, and who's going to build our houses? We're killing all the able-bodied men. Who's going to farm and do all the agrarian work? No. You're overthinking this, dude. Trust me. We're just going to cut out everybody's heart and we're going to throw their bodies off the temple. But then we'll have some food because we'll eat them. Yeah, but if we kill all the able-bodied men, there's not going to be any people. Like, we're not going to have, No, I know. Like I said, you're just overthinking it. Let's just stop and let's just do this. That only works if everybody's freaking stupid. Because if somebody would have said that at that time, the intelligent people would have been like, what the what? Huh? Like, huh? Somebody would have said, let's not do this. Let's not do this. Let's not, no, because this is not smart. This is incredibly stupid. And you're like, this is crazy, man. But if you lead into this bullshit with the cult of ignorance, then guess what? The stupid people are like, hey, well, that makes sense. Let's do that. It's idiocracy. So one leads to the other. Let's begin by making smart people not cool. Let's begin by making anyone who tells you the truth the liar. They're the dumbass. They're stupid and they're ignorant. And let's make the dumbest, ignorantest, most backwards ass people, put them up on a pedestal and make them, because they talk like this and say that they love God, let's make them be the intelligent people. Let's listen to them. They would know they're living out there with Bigfoot, according to these people, right? So let's listen to them. Let's listen to the most ignorant people in any community, in any society. Let's put them up on a pedestal. Let's listen to the most ridiculous people imaginable. People that will go out there and they will twerk and booty dance and whatever, and let's put them on a pedestal. Let's put athletes on a pedestal. I don't care if they can only read at a 4th grade education. Let's do it. And let's give them all a voice. And let's silence everyone who has an intelligent opinion or an intelligent argument. And let's create a double standard, because that's what these people do. They run everything and they control everything. So let's slant everything in the media and create a double standard. Let's do that. Let's say on the one hand that we don't agree with people having a firearm, but then let's applaud them when they try to kill someone that we don't like. This is, to me, the cult of ignorance. It is exactly what the Rockefellers and the Oppenheimers and the Goldmans and these other people, these Rothschilds, this is what they wanted. To dumb you down and to make you stupid. You're the cattle, and you're being treated as such. And let's go and let's create drama and havoc and wreak problems upon the world, and then you're busy trying to fix them and put out fires. In the meantime, guess what they're doing? They're robbing you blind. They own the banks, they control the media, and they're robbing the house. And them and their constituents are creating war, chaos, and anarchy on every part of the world. And then they're tying one hand behind your back and telling you to fix problems you cannot fix. Economic collapse is coming, folks. I'm going to tell you. I'm sorry to tell you this. There is a lot of bad things. There could even be another housing bubble. I'm seeing it. We're seeing the beginnings of a lot of bad things. And instead of working together and trying to solve and fix problems and do what's right and be there for one another, as a community and as communities should, there's people that want division because they need to be the boss bitch. Don't listen to Josh Turner. That motherfucker's stupid. Yeah, I'm the stupid one. I am the yes. I had one person message me and tell me that I'm too clever for my own good. Dude, STFU, all right? What does that even mean? What are you talking about? People saying things like, oh, you think you're too smart, and whatever, and you're doing this, you're doing that. It is the cult of ignorance. And that ultimately, folks, leads to a priest at the top of a temple cutting people's hearts out and throwing their bodies down to the crowd below so that they'll have something to eat. Because somewhere down the line, this society that we're talking about, they were able to convince their people, over 1 million of their people, that this was correct, that this is what you should do, and that it is perfectly okay to kill your own citizens and the citizens of your neighboring communities, and so that the sun would rise. This is only something that can happen, folks, if ignorance takes hold. And they destroyed the people with intelligence that would argue against it and say, no, this is medieval, this is wrong, this is beyond what comprehension. You're taking this religious zealotry and religiosity way too far. You've gone off of the rails. This is what's ridiculous, and we need to stop because you are destroying our community. But that didn't happen. You know why? Because all of the smart people were gone. And only the deviant, evil people at the top that had a little bit more intelligence than the other stupid people were left. And everyone was silenced. And ignorance took hold. And now you have this shit going on behind the scenes. They're doing it in these places of where the elites dwell. And guess what? It's only a matter of time before it's out in the open. I was watching a show the other day, folks, and listen to what I'm going to tell you. This is very important. This chef from Britain, this smarmy little fat fucker, excuse my language, but it really pissed me off. He was sitting with his arms behind his back, and these people were eating, and he said, one of these dishes can change human flesh. With a big Kool-Aid smile on his face. I wanted to slap the taste out of this guy's mouth. And these people were like, what? And he's like, yes, He was all proud of it. Somewhere, these people had been duped and probably had signed some bullshit that said, hey, you might be fed human flesh. And then he said, it's perfectly legal. It's all in the whatever. And they told these people, I don't remember what show it was. You probably look it up. And I'm sitting there going like, what the fuck? What I would do to that person if you sit there smirking at me that you just fed me some human meat. And then I thought about it and I thought, wow, because these elites actually do that. And they use fast food to do it. And people are saying, oh no, that's been proven to be that's all false information. It's been proven to be a hoax. It's a fraud, whatever. No. Dozens and dozens of times they've found human DNA in a certain large fast food company's food. Keeps happening. It's happened all around the world, most recently in Japan that I remember reading about. And I'm sitting there and I'm saying, what in the hell kind of society are we headed towards where someone can sit there with a smirk on their face and feed you human flesh? And none of these people did anything. They just sat there in their seats. I would have gotten up and been like, okay, I need to use the restroom. And I just acted like I would have turned and I would have used your imagination. I would be in jail. Because there ain't no way. Now, if you did it unwillingly or unwittingly, which I know a lot of people did unwillingly and unwittingly, that's one thing. But he's sitting right there telling you, and nobody did anything. Always so that you can conform. Conformity is very big. People love to conform, whatever. And I'm telling you right now, folks, this is what's happening. And what's happening to us right now is a microcosm of what's been happening in this country and in this world. Now, you may like Trump, you may hate him, you may dislike him, you may whatever. But there is something I can say. There is a syndrome, a derangement towards that guy. Like they are out of, like the people that don't like him are out of their minds with hatred for that guy. And now I understand it more than ever because the people who are after us are out of their minds with hatred for me. It defies logic. Their anger goes beyond anything that could even be remotely considered normal. Like, I don't care what it is I did to you unless I tried to kill one of your family members, that you should flip out and act the way you're acting and go on a holy crusade. And as you say, launch a holy war against me and my supporters. And so you see this happening now. And I've talked to other people in other communities that are saying, yeah, it's happening here too. There's all this cabal, of deranged lunatics who are going into these communities and they're doing this. And I'm telling you, folks, this is the opening ceremony to the future. What these people are doing, literally, is furthering the cult of ignorance. If they can eventually make people not listen to my words and destroy me, at the end of the day, what have they accomplished? I'll tell you what they will have accomplished. They would have taken a very valuable asset and resource away from you. Someone who's trying to bring the community together, someone who's trying to overcome obstacles and hurdles to bring you the information. Someone who has tried to end the division and try to make the community safe. Just as this war with the Filthy Five ends, we get another one. Now we have another 5. And there's 5 of them in particular that are really after doing this. And then they have their little disciples, whatever. And they won't stop. They just don't stop. And now they're going to do more. Eventually they're going to just have to start making fake stuff up because there's nothing left. So I'm hazard to guess that's what their next plan is, but it's going to happen because they won't stop. They will be just on their deathbed cursing me And for what? Because if you got rid of me, what does that do? The community is the poorer for it. There should be 400 people in this chat listening to what I'm saying right now and hearing my words. And instead, there's 277. Because they have divided the community. They've taken them away and said, don't listen to this guy. He's a bad, naughty guy. He said bad things. He said things that hurt people's feelings. Sound familiar? And I wasn't putting two and two together, but now I'm seeing it like completely. It's a derangement. It's a syndrome. These people are out of their sick minds. I don't care what your religion tells you. You're as bad as any jihadist out there. You're saying and doing things, and I see the chat, people send me screenshots of people saying, you want me to go take care of them? Come take care of me? What does that mean exactly? What are you going to do? You're going to take care of me? Are you going to bring me something nice? You going to take care of me? Probably not, because you're in the cult of ignorance, which ultimately leads to the cult of death. So how long before one of these deranged lunatics takes you up on your offer and decides that they want to pop a cap in me? I'm going to tell you something, folks, that I have not said up to this point, but every time I walk out of this door and go to my vehicle, I'm wondering if that's what's going to happen. Am I going to leave my wife as a widow? Am I going to leave my nephews and my godchildren behind? And my brother and me were talking about it yesterday, and he was extremely pissed. He's like, dude, this is ridiculous. He wanted to like be with me all the time. He was here last night, you know. And I said, you can't be with me all the time. I'm going to have to take my chances. We've had weird vehicles driving around. We filed police reports. What can we do? These people, supposedly godly people, are doing things that aren't fit for animals. My animals are more well-behaved than these people. At some point, you have to stop and say, hey, enough is enough, because someone's going to get hurt. And I'm sure these people probably think, yeah, it's fine because it's going to be you. At the end of the day, though, it's your responsibility, because you're the one going around telling people. You're knocking on door to door, you know, through Facebook Messenger, telling people, don't listen to this man. He's evil. He's bad. He's the worst thing since the commies and since the Nazis and whatever. And so, you know, we got to get rid of them. Some people are going to take those words literally, and they're going to try something. And I hope and I pray to God that I am not hurt, and that my family and my friends and my listeners are not hurt. But these people seem to be determined. And so I don't know how much good a lawsuit's going to do. We're going to find out. But it's at some point you have to say, look, where does this end? And now they were trying to say, oh, his lawyer was disbarred. Oh, no, boo-boo. That was a simple certification thing. That did not make your cease and desist null and void. They're very much legit. And you burned them and threw them away and jumped around and acted like there was nothing that could happen to you. And now, after the meeting yesterday and the one we're going to have tomorrow, it's full steam ahead. And you're going to learn what happens when people disobey the law. Because I'm not going to stop defending myself or PRT or those that watch the show. Anthony made this little meme, and I thought it was really cool. And he headlined it, kind of surprised me. It was neat. It said, Wolf defending PRT from the grifters and frauds. And it was a scene in Transformers, and I don't remember which movie it was from. I just know it was a Transformers movie. It's on my timeline now. But it's Optimus fighting like all these different Decepticons or whatever, and he's by himself. And Shia LaBeouf's character is like hiding. He's trying to protect him. And I thought, man, that is a good analogy. Not because I want to be the hero, but because that's how I feel. I'm fighting this one and that one. I'm getting kicked in the face. I'm getting thrown around. I'm getting battered and beaten. And I keep getting up and I keep fighting. And I keep taking the punches and I keep taking the gut punches from these people, and I keep fighting back. And I keep, appealing to them. Look, you can stop this at any time, but you'll never stop. You'll never stop. And if you defeated me, you wouldn't stop with me. You'd go and do more damage to other people because they don't believe like you, because they don't have a certain fundamentalist view like you. All I've done is give people an alternative and tell them that there is other information out there. And they've labeled me an apostate and a heretic, and even said that I'm a heretic on my own page. And that's sad, because all I've done is try to bring you information. Jesus says my people die for lack of knowledge. And one particular troll who wears green, it just watches me religiously and says and does the most ridiculous things as soon as every episode's over. Last night he said I was nervous and I was all full of fear or whatever. No, I wasn't. I was calm, cool, and collected like I am now. Am I afraid of going to jail because of your nonsense? No. Do I give a shit what information you have and this big reveal you're going to do against me? No, I don't give a shit. Did I say something that you could use against me? Probably. Do I give a rat's ass? No. Those that are going to want to hear what I have to say are going to come. People that know me know that I talk shit and that I've said things and I've done things and whatever. And I've gotten passionate and gotten in the moment and said things. And some things I've said I do regret. I do regret, especially a few years ago when I was in a pissed off, angry mood and in a different way. So take your best shot, boo-boo. Because I will still be here and I will still be doing what I'm doing. And nothing you do or say is going to stop that. That's it. That's all I can tell you. We here at PRT do the best job we can. We're as honest as we can possibly be. We put our hands out in friendship and we get them bit. We have been under attack since the conference. That second conference was just too much for everybody. It was too much. People lost their minds because it was so successful and we had brought so many people together. And now some of these people have turned in a way that I never thought it would be humanly possible to be that vile. They act like I did something to their family, to them personally, like I tried to, hurt them physically. Never done anything of the sort. And instead of being said, hey, you know what? You did a great thing. You're bringing the community together. It's nope. Let's take this guy down. Let's destroy him and destroy his channel. Let's keep him from being able to say anything at all. Let's silence him, take away his freedom of speech, and let's just tear him down every way we possibly can. Philip Miller says, I was there. There was a lot of people there, Philip. A lot of people, and it was great. They've tried to take it and turn it into, I don't know what. And then, this one guy, he makes the roofer. I didn't read all of it. It was a book. He wrote a book, and he was talking about how I was begging him to get people to come to the conference because one person wasn't going to come. No, dude, that person got told that they were not allowed to come to the conference because they were working with the guy from Oklahoma to undermine me. So, no, it's not what happened. I never went to this man and asked him to get anyone to go, oh, I'm panicking, I need help, whatever. Anything that anybody could do to bring more people to the conference or bring more speakers to the conference, great. That was what we wanted. That was what we needed, right? But as far as panicking and telling, oh, we're not going to have anybody saying I was losing speakers left and right, I could have lost 12 speakers and still had 20 speakers. We had so many speakers that we couldn't fit them all into 2 days. So we had panels. We had to do panels for people so that everybody's voice could be heard. And the people that were there know that's true. There were a lot of speakers, well over 20-something speakers. So what in the hell are you talking about? Well, that's just it. So let me tell you this. These people have transgressed against us in every way humanly possible at this point. I mean, they have transgressed, other than being physically assaulting us, they have transgressed every way you can. And now they're planning more shenanigans. And I'm telling you right now, I'm going to keep doing what I do. I'm going to keep bringing you the best that I can bring you. I'm not going to say it's the best on the internet, because I think there's several podcasters, YouTubers that are actually better than me. I'm not going to toot my own horn and say, oh, I'm the best ever. That's ridiculous to say that. And then go, we've helped so many people. You don't need to brag about that. If you've done it, you've done it. If you haven't, you haven't. But I do the best I can, right? So tomorrow night, we're going to do more of the best we can. And I'm going to talk about the Gugwe and talk about some of the encounters that people have had with these creatures. Maybe we'll get into that Minotaur story too. But you know, that's my deal. That's my word to you. I'm going to do what I can. You know, there's another certain someone who's been actively trying to attack us and hurt us. And he's now teamed up with his old scam artist partner. And they were very, very adamant that I slant things a certain way so that Jody Cook and Nick Valenti were not valid in what that they were. You know, they were trying to get me to be on their side. And there was a side. There was a side. And the honest person in that whole thing, I think, was Johnny Henderson. Unfortunately, he's passed away. But he was not asking me to take a side. He goes, I just want to know the truth, whether this man is honest or not. And yeah. And now they set us up. And I'm going to prove it. I'm going to prove it. That they are the ones behind this. They're the ones that have created this mess. And eventually it will come out. It's going to have to. They're going to have to admit to the things that they've done. They will eventually have to admit. I'm confident in that. And if it doesn't happen, then it doesn't happen. But I'd be very shocked, because once it all goes to where it needs to go, it's going to come out. I feel confident that it's going to come out. You know, because I know that we're innocent. We didn't do the things that they're saying, and it's all part of their jealousy. Telling the truth, yeah, I was asked to slant things a certain way for them, and I tried to be as unbiased as possible. I did not like the way that it was presented by Jody when he first came out, and I told him that. He came out and he was yelling and kind of being, that was not good. But did I ever fully believe the other guy's story? No. And do I believe it now? No, I don't, and I haven't for a long time. And we were asked for help from this other guy, who immediately went and turned around and gave that guy the information. So what he does, he's a backstabber and a liar and a fraud. And he wanted me to slant that. And I told him, I don't think that's correct. And I did the best I could to be impartial. And we had another show where we did with Nick Valenti and Ken Gerhardt, and we questioned him. And even then, he was still he was pretending to be impartial, but even then, he didn't want to look like he was lying, although he said he hated that guy and he was mad at him. Didn't seem like it, because I just don't think he wanted to be wrong. The best thing that somebody can do when they're wrong is just admit it and say, hey, I was wrong. How hard is that? But apparently for some people, that's very hard to do. I've had to do it more times than I can count. So when somebody comes along and says, hey, you did the blah, 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 blah. Yeah, and I was wrong for that. I shouldn't have said that. I shouldn't have done that. Judge me how you will. I shouldn't have said those things. I shouldn't have been all up in that person's whatever, because I took the word of some idiot, which I don't do now. But that's it, folks. That's all I got. That's all I can tell you. That's all I got for now. Thank you for the prayers, and thank you. And I'm sure this is going to have them spinning out and spitting out all kinds of crap and expediting their big reveals so that they can bring the curtain down on me and once and for all fulfill their master's will, which is the cult of ignorance, which ultimately leads to the cult of death, which is what the people that control this matrix are all about. They're about those two things, ignorance and then death. One leads to the other. We die for lack of knowledge. But you are the ones ultimately who will make the decision. You will be the judge. Who stands and who falls. And I don't care if they fall. I just don't want them to go away. Leave me alone. They don't have to go away from the community. It's big enough for everybody. Just go and stay on your side of the fence and leave us the F alone. That's all I want. I don't care. They want me destroyed. They want me gone. They want to wake you all up from your crazy sleep paralysis coma or whatever I've lulled you into, whatever they say is going on. But at the end of the day, you're just trying to learn, which is something they should be doing, but instead they're disrupting. And so just think about it. When you look around and you see what's going on in this world, not just in this situation, but in everything, look at these people who are applauding what happened to the former president. It's ridiculous. It is absolutely ridiculous. And you look at the insanity that's going on. It's happening everywhere, on a small scale, on a large scale. It's happening everywhere. And people are under attack left and right. And it's all the people who are speaking out and saying what's true. These ignorant people are just attacking them like ants. It's not just me. I mean, it's everybody who's speaking out and saying anything. And what do these lunatics that attack the truthers, and they call themselves truthers, there's not truther, they're just saying that. But what do they get out of this once it's all said and done? Once that person is gone and removed from whatever, what do you have left? A bunch of boring ass people who nobody's going to listen to. Not good. Not good at all. And I think that if I'm gone, the community is going to suffer for it. But right now, like I said, we're doing the best we can, and we're going to keep doing what we can. We love you guys. Thank you for everybody who showed up. Get a membership so you can be in the giveaway on Sunday. But like we said before, we're not interested in the donations because we're trying to prove to the community that we're not doing this for the money. All right. Thank you. And I'll see you tomorrow night when we're going to talk some Gugwe and what that is. All right. I'll see you.